my temperament's going to be as a dad. I don't know what it's going to be like when they get out in the circle and kind of be able to dial back my expectations for them and just let them love the sport. So, I've had a lot of talks with the coaches that I've brought along through the system. Is like, hey, I don't know what it's going to be like when my son steps out there. I might need you to be in the corner. I might just have to be the bleacher dad. Yeah. So, just trying to figure that out.
Welcome to the Lugo Show, guys. Here with main man Mitch Kennedy here with the Raiders, right?
Yep.
Raiders High School. Coach, how you doing?
Good.
Doing good? Tell me a little bit about how'd you get started up here? How'd you get started coaching here?
So I graduated from Decatur. My dad moved here back in the 80s. He was not a wrestler. He was actually a football player. Lost his finger in a butcher shop accident. And doctor said, hey, you can't go back to play football until we know you have strength. So he's like, hey, I'll join the wrestling team.
So you went from football to wrestling? I feel like you need your fingers more in wrestling, though.
Yeah, right? So he did it just to build his strength up. Yeah. And so my dad joined his junior year, halfway through the year, was one match away from making it to state. So then he comes back next year, he's state champ.
State champ?
Yep.
Nice.
And for the guy who was a longtime coach here. So my dad, goes about his life, has kids, and then I'm coming up through the system, and he saw kind of the way that other parents were coaching kids and didn't want to push me into this. Wanted me to ask about it.
Yeah.
So I get all the way up to 6th grade while I'm here, and my 6th grade teacher goes, hey, you gonna do some wrestling? I was like, sure, I'll try it. And he's like, your dad's a state champ. I was like, I didn't know that. And he's like, his picture's down in the trophy room. So I started wrestling here. My high school coach was my dad's high school coach. Went off to Iowa and wrestled at Luther College, and then got my education degree. My high school coach was like, you go out, you work hard, there might be a spot for you when you come back. So I came back, and he was getting close to retirement and took a special ed job, and he retired. I kind of moved in and became the head coach and rebuilt the program. By the time I came back, I first had 4 kids on varsity.
Okay. So you had to build that up.
Yeah. I had to build it. So we went from that first group with 4, my year 5, we made the state tournament. Nice. And then since then we've been top 10 the last couple of years, and had a regional finals here and had a heartbreak loss to a team that went on state runner-up. We've been butting heads with them.
Yeah, so tell me more about the team now. What kind of tough guys you got on the lineup now? Do you have a girls program, or is that?
We do. We had our first girls varsity wrestler this year. She's my 190, the state runner-up, his sister. Nice. She's a killer softball player. So she missed half the season because she went and played for a Team USA team overseas.
For softball?
For softball.
Nice,
nice. But then she came back 2 weeks before the district.
And then she got second at state?
District champ. She didn't get second. Her brother got second. But she was district champ. And then she was regional runner-up. Yeah. And then she ended up placing 6th. But then she placed 6th in a bracket with 3 returning state champs.
Nice.
So she's preseason ranked number 2 coming back in because almost the whole bracket graduated out.
Older girls, seniors. Yeah. So that's awesome. Sounds like you're building.
Yeah, building. I got a couple middle school girls that are really into it. One's coming in as a freshman. So we're trying to build that. High school program, I only graduated 3 starters off of our team from last year.
Young guys.
Young guys. Really strong junior class.
Okay.
Juniors going to be seniors, so I got the Meade twins, they're coming back. They both made it to state on alternating years. I guess we joke that they take turns.
Yeah. They sneak in for a match. Hey, I'm not one. You sneak in for me.
Yep.
That's funny. That's funny.
That's awesome. And then Bradford was state runner-up last year. Had a 1-point loss in the finals. It was that single leg that we were working on. We said he needed that one more shot. Yeah. One more shot to build off of his offense.
Every rep counts, right?
Yep.
Every rep counts. Yeah. You mentioned that your dad didn't want to push you, right? Yeah. I know that's something that now that I'm coaching, I see that in a lot of parents. So tell me about that. Like, what do you see? How do you deal with the parent that's maybe pushing their kid too hard?
It's a lot, and we were talking before how when I came back, they let the youth program know. So when I first started, I was the I was a high school coach, middle school coach, and the youth coach.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started the youth program, I had to start having like some tough conversations with people about how we were going to do youth.
Yeah.
Cause it wasn't going to be, there's so many programs around here that it's like, hey, we're starting in October. Youth state tournament is until the end of April, and they hit every weekend with kids and just burn them.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of, at the coaches clinic, they talk about the numbers that only 50% of the kids that are wrestling youth are going on wrestling high school. And so I was adamant that something's wrong with the way we're doing it.
Something needs to change.
Yeah. And now that I have my two boys running around, it's, I look to guys who've done it right. So I heard Dave Dean's dad, talking on a podcast about how he went about it with his son. I listened to Coach Kuhn, Adam Kuhn's dad, is the head coach for Fowlerville, Michigan. Listen to how he did it.
And how did you guys
Adam.
do it?
So Adam's dad said that he would take him to tournaments and always bribe him with McDonald's afterwards. And Adam was always a heavyweight, so bribing a heavyweight with McDonald's is always a good thing. My assistant coach, Mike, he had his son, Colton, he's our other state runner-up that's returning. He took Colton to a tournament. I remember it was right when I came back when I was running the youth program, and Colton had a hard time dealing with losses. He's a very talented wrestler, but when he was young, losses were so big to him. So Mike said, nope, we're done. And they stepped away from wrestling youth for a long time. And they wrestled middle school, and that's only about 6 weeks long. It's just a little taste of wrestling.
Yeah.
And he just practiced and practiced. He still went to all the youth practices. He just didn't compete. And then Colton jumps on the scene in his freshman year. He's a state placer. So I think he placed 6th as a freshman, and then he was in the state finals this year.
Nice.
And so, I look at that, man, I think that's the right way to do it. So I was talking to my wife about, my son's asking about wrestling now, and I was like, well, we'll do a year of practice. And then we'll see how that goes. And then we'll try 1 or 2 tournaments, and, and just kind of do it based off of his temperament.
Yeah.
I think so many people, it's like, you gotta get mat time, gotta get mat time. And, I think they're right. You need mat time, but that doesn't mean competition. Right? Some kids, natural competitors, they're aggressive, they'll go out and they get it, and a loss is a loss and they can move on past it. But I think at the point where a loss makes them want to step away from the sport and they don't want to start doing it, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I agree. So growing up, my dad was really hard on me. He was one of those dads pushing, and I hated wrestling and I started to resent my dad through wrestling. It wasn't until I got to high school when he took a step back, where there was room for passion. So I started to fall in love with the sport of wrestling. I started winning more, and I just enjoyed the process. Not worried about the results, right? The tournament. So I think that's very important to, enjoy the process. And now that I'm a coach, those hard conversations with the parents, like, hey, you can't do this, can't do that. Some of them listen, some of them, go inside the car and then, start, going back to their ways. But, that's part of it. That's part of it. I think, just like being a tough wrestler, you gotta be a tough parent. I think where the problem comes in, where people they don't kind of know their role. Like, I'm a coach, I can't be a parent. An athlete can't be a coach, and a parent can't be a coach. You know what I mean? So it's like, know your role, and be coachable, be coachable and have an open mind. Some people tell you the truth. It's not because, we want to hurt you, or, some people take it personal kind of. And, I try to tell the parents, like, we want the same thing. We want what's best for your athlete, So I think that's really good.
That's exactly, I've heard from 2 coaches I look up to a lot, Dave Dean from Lowell, Dave Dean's dad, and then, actually one of the coaches in our area that's really tough, the Clinton coach. Yep, they were both talking about balancing this dad-coach relationship where the dad is the coach.
That's hard.
At a high school level and, hard level. And, Dave Dean talked about the limit of I'm Matt, I'm coach, but the moment we're off the mat, I gotta be dad.
Yeah.
I can't talk about results.
Gotcha.
And the Clinton coach was talking about, and it was one of those moments, he told his story and it burned into me, cut to my heart. He was talking about wrestling as a kid. and they were going to live go in the room, and his kid was getting so into it, like, you know, butt heads with your dad, and you're like, I'm on the edge of like throwing punches.
Yeah.
And his son took a hard double A and hit the steel post of the door and dropped. And he thought he broke his neck. And so he's like, at that point, he's like, I can't allow him. Because it's, you know, there's that boundary where it gets too personal.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I like how, and I think at the clinic as well, it was, the Amines from, they wrestled Michigan, they wrestled in Detroit Catholic Central, and,
was that OK State now, right?
Yep,
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, where were they before Catholic Central? Clarkston, Michigan.
Okay.
Yep. So they're both in the Detroit area. Their dad, it was actually the coaches at Clinton now was their youth coach. Because he said that the dad of me would be like on all fours screaming at him on the mat and realized how into it he was getting, and he couldn't break that coach-dad relationship, so he brought in another guy.
That's hard.
So, you know, I'm on the early side of it, but I have all these, you know, mentors and things that I listen to, and it's like, I don't know what my temperament's going to be as a dad. I don't know what it's going to be like when they get out in the circle and kind of be able to dial back my expectations for them and just let them love the sport. So, you know, I've had a lot of talks with the coaches that I've brought along through the system. Is like, hey, I don't know what it's going to be like when my son steps out there. I might need you to be in the corner. I might just have to be the bleacher dad.
Yeah.
So, you know, just trying to figure that out.
We were talking, me and Jordan here. Kellen Sanders was at a practice or at a tournament, and he has his son wrestling, and his son has as a coach, and Kellen Sanders just sitting down there just watching, not saying anything, no emotion, no
smiling,
just smiling. And you got one of the best wrestlers in the world, right? Letting the coach, letting the coach, and like that right there is an example of like being a parent, you know. And one thing I do tell parents is, hey, your kid wins, I love you. Your kid loses, I love you. You know, it's not the results. I don't show you more or less attention because of your wins or losses. So.
And I think, you know, Mike and I do that a lot. Our room always ends. We have our practice, and we are very upfront about our principles as coaches and our program and what it's about.
Philosophy.
Right, we're going to have you for 4 years. You got to be a person the rest of your life. You only get to be a wrestler guaranteed for 4 years, from freshman year to senior year. So in this 4 years, if all I care about is your win and loss record, that's selfish. That's the wrong way to coach. So we always talk about, we end practice at 5:30 because we have families. And hey, we're going to get a hard practice in because at 5:30 I have to go to home with my family. It's selfish for me to grind another, even if you need another half hour, it's probably because you didn't go hard enough in that hour and a half that we were here to get stuff done. So, and then we always end practice with whatever it is we try to connect wrestling to life every time.
Yes.
And so it's always like, we're sitting down like this, the kids are on the wall, and Mike and I just thought like, hey, well, life's gonna be hard. You know, we went through last year, his son, Colton, had an injury that we thought halfway through the year was the end of his season. He was able to come back and wrestle and battle and beat state runner-up through that. And so we got to use that as a talking point of, so life doesn't wait. Life doesn't care if you're hurt. Yeah. Life doesn't, you know, you just got to go out and battle. Yep. We talk about, you know, I lost my aunt to cancer 2 years ago. And so we were going through that in the middle of wrestling season. And so I was sharing them about, you know, my faith and what I believe, and because she was a pastor, and, you know, sometimes bad things happen to good people. And, you know, we still got to show up. Like, I can't abandon these guys because I got stuff going on at home. And I can't abandon my family at home because I got these guys. And there's got to be a balance. And, you know, we constantly talk about that and try to get into, you know, I think wrestling is the greatest example of that. Like, all the training, the struggling you do behind the scenes shows on the mat. And you only get 6 minutes to show what you worked 4 years for.
Yeah.
You know, you get in that state match your senior year, you get in the national finals. Like, how many years went up to a 6 minute period? And, you know, that happens in life. You might have a situation where you got to make the toughest decision. And what did you do? What did your character build you? How often did you show up to work when you didn't feel like it? How many times did you make the right choice with knowing, look at how many times were you honest with people, and how does that prepare you for that moment in life?
Yeah, I know it definitely imitates life. I had an example like that happen to me. I lost my mom probably 2 years ago, cancer, and in some way I was prepared for that loss because through the hardships I went through from wrestling, I felt that, pain, and I knew how to handle it, right? Because I felt pain before, and not to say, a wrestling match is as much pain as losing my mom, but I know how to handle pain and adversity, and I just went right back to work. I ended up going to Egypt 2 weeks after my mom passed. I'm in a wrestling tournament, so I gotta get back to it, because if I sit down and moan, I'm only weakening myself, and I'm not setting an example for the rest of my family. I want to be the backbone that my mom was, for my family, and so I try to set that example, for them. And we still struggle, as a family here and there, because, the mom's not there no more, but, so yeah, wrestling brings me back for sure. So yeah, that's really, really good point you made there. Wrestling imitates life in so many different ways. It's awesome.
Yeah. One of the things I teach a class to middle schoolers called leadership. Yes. And one of the things that we talk about is character. And one of those main things of character is your emotional stability, how in control of your own emotions.
Yes. Yeah.
And Mike, my assistant coach, who was the assistant coach when I was in school, so he went from being my coach to being my assistant coach. Mm-hmm. So we have a really strong relationship. And he always talks about, especially at the state tournament, it's the highs and the lowest lows. You might coach one match and you have a kid crank out a nail biter and make it to the state finals, but then you turn around and you got a senior who is up and then gives up a head knock and gets pinned. And you got to be able to balance the high that you feel for a guy of winning and the low that you feel as a coach and as a competitor too. Yes. Right? You might win a match you're not supposed to win and then get blown out in the next match, and you got to be able to reset because, you win that semifinal, you lose that semifinal match, you got to bounce back right away, and you got a short window to figure out how to do it. And, like you're saying, when you have moments in life, you might be super low, there might be something going on, and you got to be able to keep yourself regulated. Yeah. And, that's a sign of character that you can have that emotional stability maybe for years.
Emotional stability, for sure. Definitely helps, especially in the Iowa wrestling room where people are trying to beat you up. Yep. Coach says one more, and then you think it's the last one, then he says one more, and it's like, hey, you get frustrated, but you bring yourself back down. Yeah, I think that's something that Iowa really got me prepared for. I mean, more my life in general, I feel like I was emotional, stable my whole life, and I'm not really a guy who talks a lot. Me being here, I'm uncomfortable talking in front of this camera, but I think, getting to talk to you, and I'm not really that comfortable with most people, but talking to you, I feel like I am. And it's good. I think that's a good thing. But yeah.
And that's something that, I grew up idolizing that. Like I said, when I was a middle schooler, we had a small camp like this, and my coach was able to bring Roy Hall in, Brent Metcalf's coach. So at 6th grade, I'm idolizing Brent Metcalf and followed his career, and then I idolized Iowa. And so that was, I wanted to be in someone's face, battle, and just grind it out. And then that kind of led to the decision of going to Iowa for college. I was like, man, I want to be as close to Iowa as I can get. Yeah. And my coach was, he was the head of the Coaches Association for D3 and was really tight with Iowa. And that's why Iowa started coming to the Luther Open.
Yeah. Okay. That's how it all started.
That was the connection. Yeah. So through the Coaches Association there.
I never been there. My redshirt year is when I could have went. Yeah. But at the time, my grades weren't so good. So they said, hey, you guys stay back. We can't have you go to tournaments. So I wish I would have been. But yeah, a lot of guys really Luther.
Yeah. My senior year, my first match at Luther Open was, Jebba.
I was
New Jersey guy.
Josh Jebba? I know the last name. Is Josh?
Yeah, I think so. His last name was
I know Jebo.
It was
I know the last name. I don't know the first name.
I can't remember, but I had him first match, and that was my like realization in the gap between. Cause I was a 500 wrestler at East. I didn't start. The guy who came over, we had a guy transferred from Oregon State, who lost to Spencer Mangle in the semis at Pac-12, and then decided to go D3. But so I was a 500 guy, and so my first match against Jebo, and I just remember, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna club the shit out of him and hit a high crotch, and he got behind me so quick, and I was whiffed on my high crotch, and I was like, okay, I guess that's the speed that I'm dealing with. Yeah. So
that's when you realized that, okay, here's college wrestling, here's the gap.
The level, here's the gap.
Yeah.
And it was, and I was like, I didn't know who he was at the time. He was just a guy in Iowa City. And I didn't want to go out there and be afraid of wrestling in Iowa City.
Yeah.
And, so then, following his career, I'm like, oh crap, he's an All-American.
Yeah. That year. Good. Was he 41, right?
Yeah, 141. Yep.
Yeah, I remember him. I think I was in high school. I was in high school, sophomore year maybe.
Okay.
When I saw him, his name. Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's good, right? You good? Yeah, so that's wrap it up. So that's the end of the Lugo Show here. Coach Mitch, thank you for coming. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate having me out. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me out here. If we could do this annual thing, I'll be.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. It'd be awesome. Thanks, guys. See ya.